Hey everyone, and welcome back to another portfolio update. It's been quite a good week for the couch investing portfolio. It was up 2.6%, whereas the S&P 500 was basically flat. Now, of course, overall, since the end of February, we still have a long way to go to outperform. We're still down 1.22%, while the S&P 500 is up 9.55% since then. But as we've seen, when we have quite a good week for the market, this portfolio does outperform. And especially a couple of positions here that have been underperforming for quite a while. Some of them I still believe are extremely undervalued. Once there is a change in sentiment in some of these stocks, for example, PayPal, Tesla, even though Tesla is up 40% since the lows in April, SoFi as well. Palantir, we can talk about it being overvalued, undervalued right now. Snowflake as well. There's still a lot that can happen in the back half of the year and next year as well, because some of these companies have underperformed for some good reasons. But for example, PayPal, I think it's undervalued. It's priced for 0% growth, and the company is actually growing. It's growing top and bottom line. It's buying back shares, 8% yield. So yeah, I do believe extremely undervalued. And once that sentiment does switch, I do think that we're going to catch the market quite fast. When will that happen? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. Same as last week. If anybody wants to sell me his crystal ball, I'll pay a premium and then give some crystal balls away to some of the subscribers. By the way, if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, we're going to reach 50,000 subscribers this year. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, notification bell on. Would really appreciate that. So thank you very much. Now, in the last week, the only thing I did is take a little bit of profit from Adobe when we bought the dip, and so it increased the cash position. It's now at 4.33%. I like it that way, so I can see whether or not there will be some opportunities in the coming weeks as we enter the next earnings season. I expect some volatility in some of these companies, and so I'm ready to add some cash to those positions. I'm waiting a little bit to see whether or not I would like to add already to Rocket Lab. It is one of the speculative plays of the portfolio with Appcelera. Appcelera, I've been absolutely destroyed right now, but it's really a tiny position in the portfolio. So we're fully focused on maybe increasing the second speculative play, which in my opinion is a much better one, and that's Rocket Lab. Remains to be seen what happens. I'll keep you posted in the weekly videos. In this video, we're of course going to talk about the topic of the video, if you've seen in thumbnail and in the title, and that's economic moats. And so let's start talking about economic moats. This is a great picture by App Economy Insights. You can find him on X at Economy App, not sponsored or anything. I just found it pretty good as an illustration because it basically explains economic moats in that picture. Of course, it shows you the big tech companies, which they became big tech companies because of their economic moats, but we're going to talk a little bit about non-tech companies as well, and some that were leading but are not leading anymore. But here, economic moats, basically a company, you're the castle, right? The moat is basically your protection, your defense around the castle, which in the Stone Age, in the medieval times, you had, of course, water. The water basically protected you from attacks, from invasions. Same with companies right now. You have an advantage, you have an economic moat. What is it? Well, it can be the brand, can be manufacturing, the cost, a lot of things. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if it is not as strong, or if you basically do not have one of these things, let's say you remove that water, it becomes extremely easy for the enemy to attack, destroy your castle, or basically take over that castle. And so I would like to turn your attention to this little book that builds wealth by Pat Dorsey. It's from the series of That Little Book. Great series. I highly recommend you pick up a copy on Amazon, so we can increase the earnings per share and maybe future buybacks. Anyways, great book. Not that long, not that difficult to understand, but Pat Dorsey basically talks about 4 things here when it comes to economic moats: intangible assets, high switching cost, network effect, and cost advantages. So the first one, Think of strong brands like Apple, Coca-Cola, or valuable patents that give a company a unique edge. These assets make it harder for competitors to simply copy their products and services. High switching cost is the second one. This happens when it's expensive or inconvenient for a customer to switch to a competitor. Imagine a business with complex software. It might be costly and time consuming to switch to a different software provider. Think of Adobe, think of Autodesk, maybe even Palantir, for example. It's just a hassle to change. It will cost you a lot of money, not just because the software costs maybe more, maybe it can cost a little bit less, but the fact that you're going to lose time by switching, you're going to have to retrain your personnel to learn a new software. That's basically what they also mean by high switching costs. Then moving to network effects, this occurs when a product or service becomes more valuable as more people use it. Think of social media platforms. The more people on Facebook, the more valuable it is for everyone to be there. Also, I would assume software that deals with data. If you have interconnecting data points, the more, the better. And the last one here is cost advantages. Some companies can produce goods or services much cheaper than competitors due to economies of scale or efficient processes. This allows them to undercut competition on price and still make good profit. For example, Tesla, when you're vertically integrated, you have a huge advantage over the others. And of course, you can talk about Chinese companies because, well, they can make stuff for cheap, although their margins are not always that great. And so if we talk about some examples of companies that have strong competitive moats, so you've got strong brands, think of Coca-Cola, people love the taste and tradition, so it's hard for a new soda brand to compete. By the way, it also has a secret recipe, and maybe you didn't know this, but there is something in Coca-Cola that makes you forget the taste. Your taste buds. Basically, there is a reason why once you drink a can of Coca-Cola, there is a reason why in an hour or two, maybe sometime less, you have no issues drinking another can. Whereas with other soda drinks, once you finish that can, you basically don't want another one that fast. With Coca-Cola, I don't know how they did it, but your taste buds, they basically forget it. They basically forget the taste, it's gone completely, and that's why you have no issues drinking more and more and more and more. Yes, I know, extremely unhealthy, but extremely powerful and profitable for that company. The more you know. Then, secret sauce. Maybe a company has a special formula, again, can be Coca-Cola, or technology nobody else can copy, like the recipe for KFC's chicken. I didn't know that, I looked it up, apparently it's a thing. And the third one, high switching cost. If it's expensive or inconvenient to switch from one company to another, that's a moat. Imagine switching all of your software and data to a new cloud storage company. That's a hassle. Like I said, data, especially today, that's definitely a point to take into consideration when you're looking for one of these companies to invest in. And so those are the basics that you should know talking about economic moats. Moving on to the specific companies, of course, it's pretty simple. I mean, you can see those are, well, most of them, other than Coca-Cola, tech companies, which I think this is a thing that you have to take into consideration, especially in the age of AI and super high tech, is that yes, these big tech companies will become bigger and bigger. Sometimes you will have a small company that comes out of nowhere and suddenly can grow into a giant one in a matter of a year or two. Yes, that might happen, but I don't think you will see that many companies in the next coming years. Maybe one or two each and every year, but that's about it. That's just the way I see it right now in the age of AI and tech. Now, of course, you have companies like Costco, Disney, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, stuff like that are not tech related, that can have a strong moat, that can have a very, very good business, profitable one as well, and definitely a good investment. Now let's talk here about the companies I've put on the screen. Apple, loyal customer base, strong brand recognition, unique operating system, basically walled garden. Then Microsoft, dominant software products, Windows, Office, Azure Cloud, now with gaming as well, switching costs for businesses. Coca-Cola, we've talked about that. Alphabet or Google, I mean, do we even have to explain? The search engine, advertising, cloud now as well, some bets, and you're watching the video on YouTube. Plus, I do still think, I've been saying this for quite a while, I think that the Pixel phone is going to be a huge, huge win for that company. Amazon, one of the best companies on the planet, in my opinion. So massive online retail presence, efficient logistics network. The logistics network is definitely their biggest moat. I think that's my opinion. Of course, they also have AWS, Prime membership, and basically everything else that they offer, and everything else that in the future a potential other smaller company might offer. They will offer it for less. They will offer it in the Prime membership and basically take over. That's what I think. Last one here is Visa. You can also put here MasterCard. So extensive global payment network, high barrier of entry for new competitors, strong brand trust. Now in the same space, I know it's not apples to apples, but I would like to put PayPal there as well. I know some of you will disagree, but to me the fact that a lot of people do recognize the PayPal button on a website, the fact that you see that, you can trust it. If I see another payment option that I've never heard of, sorry, I'm not going to use that even if it is cheaper. If I see the PayPal button, usually that's the one that I'll pick. Yes, it's true. Apple Pay, you can use Apple Pay as well, but the underlying technology sometimes is going to be Braintree, PayPal. Then talking about the companies that used to have a moat, used to be leaders and have completely lost it for various reasons. One, Blockbuster. They had a huge video rental business but failed to adapt to streaming services like Netflix. Then Kodak, leader in film photography, couldn't compete with the rise of digital cameras. Nokia, top mobile phone maker, lost market share to Apple and Samsung with smartphones. My first phone was a Nokia 3310. I believe I can still find it, and I'm pretty sure, this is a joke of course, the battery will probably be at 0, but once you charge it, you're probably good for another month or so. Then you have BlackBerry, same thing. Xerox pioneered photocopying technology but failed to adapt to the rise of digital document management and printing. Toys R Us dominated the traditional toy store market, struggled against online retailers and discount chains. To be honest, that's a real shame because I loved that store. And I think that this is something that the kids today did not get or do not get to experience, is walking into a huge toy store and experience that, wow, look at all those toys. Basically the same feeling you have when you go to Disneyland or Disney World. It's a shame. Now you go into a toy store and everything you see is digital. It's game for PC, for PlayStation, Nintendo, not really for toys. You still have, but not as many. But basically, these are the leaders or the previous leaders that got disrupted because they didn't innovate, they didn't see it coming, or maybe their moat, their powerful defense was not as powerful as we previously thought. And so to conclude, if you want to build a strong portfolio, a portfolio that will outperform the market in the long run, find yourself companies with economic moats. Yes, even if you find those companies, it can be that in the short run, you might not perform well because the market doesn't trust the new innovation. Even Apple, right after they launched the iPhone. Yes, in the short run, 2007, 2008, 2008, there was the market crash, but you had a period where the stock suddenly went up a lot. And then after that, after the hype died down, stock didn't react accordingly, but the business, of course, went on to do extremely, extremely well, despite a short-term noise period. We can see that with a lot of other companies, especially big tech companies, despite them being up 1,000, 10,000% in the last decade or more, they had periods of weaknesses. They had periods where the market believed that, maybe their competitive advantage is over. More recently, we've had that with the likes of Meta, with the likes of Google as well. Who's going to use Google search, right? Well, apparently still billions and billions of people. So that's about it for this video. If you enjoy this type of videos, leave the thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.